Oh, those tricky midterms. It's going to be a test for Democrats as centrists and socialists are currently pulling the party apart. So will the left keep pushing for a socialism comeback? And will voters be wise enough to reject it? Tonight's panel is here to discuss. She's a talk radio host and a Fox News contributor. Leslie Marshall is here. And look who's back, comedian and host of Part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith, and WWE superstar Dolph Ziggler. Welcome, one and all. Nice to see you again. Dave, since you have been absent for quite some time and we have missed you.
It's good to be back.
Let's talk a little.
Smaller.
It does, yeah. Well, speaking of economic contractions, we downsized the studio as well. So let's talk about socialism, because it's not just progressive Democrats that are praising the virtues of this, what I call diet communism.
Yeah. By the way, first time I was ever on your show, the first topic we talked about was socialism. So I'm glad we're back and talking about the most evil ideology in human history, which is responsible for more death, starvation, and human misery than anything that man has ever created. The idea that we'd even be discussing this after the 20th century is insane. And for all the leftists who flip out when 12 white nationalists march in Washington, D.C., just imagine if there were actually Republicans winning elections running on the mantle of democratic fascism. The socialists have way more deaths on their hands than the fascists ever had, and somehow this is still acceptable in polite society to call yourself a socialist.
And fascism isn't good, but you have people like Cynthia Nixon and Lena Dunham and Jim Carrey, and not to mention mainstream publications saying stop holding back on using the term socialism. Socialism is great, but there have to be people in your party who look at that and say, come on, man, we're not going to win elections with this. We can't pay for it.
Well, I think it depends where you are. I mean, we saw what happened with Ocasio-Cortez and others, and the Bernie or bust bus. They love socialism. But it's interesting. Every time there's an election, whether it's a midterm,
but it's not just them anymore. I think that's my point. It's not just them.
Well, it's not.
Has gained.
Yesterday, Republicans, 52% of Republicans like the idea of Medicare for all. People like free stuff, or what they envision as free stuff, even though we do all have to pay into it. And we do have socialism, and nobody is giving back their Medicare and Social Security when they get older, even congressional Republicans. What we're looking at right now, as I've said before, is we have a party that's divided. And socialism's that term. Like the president talks about Venezuela. We're going to become like Venezuela. I heard that when Obama ran for office, when he ran for re-election. Every time there's an election, we mean Democrats. We're scary, and we're going to ruin this country, and we're going to make it into Venezuela. And that's just not the reality.
But it's interesting because and what's different now is socialism is a term that's used by both sides for very different reasons. It's almost like we talked about the migrant caravan at the top of the show. And you've got one term or one picture, and both sides will say either this is the worst thing ever or isn't this the greatest invention of all time? How can one thing be so vastly different to two groups of people?
I think it's because it reminds me of The Office, if anyone watched the show, the American version. And it's Ryan is the intern, and Michael is constantly the boss, he's the cool young kid, and he's trying to hang out with him and be his friend. And that's what I think a lot of people hear socialism, and it's like, saw Bernie Sanders getting a following of college kids, sees Beto riding a skateboard and talking about it, and you go, I'm an old guy who doesn't know anything, but this might be the hip way to go if I can kind of just casually put in there. Not like Venezuela, but just, here and there. You like free stuff, right? Anyway, back to my evil plan. Yeah, and it's just so simple that it's a lot of people see it. Probably at this table, most of us are like, oh, this is disgusting. And then somebody like, here's a cool buzzword for someone a little bit younger than me to go, yeah, everybody should be having fun, man.
And I think you're right. And in college,
oh, that's a little bit misguided.
College students love it because it makes their parents so mad, because their parents probably lost family members in Eastern Europe. Or in China, who died at the hands of communist dictators who, democratic socialism to them meant throwing people in gulags. Well, there's going to be no gulag for you tonight. It's going to be solid gold-plated goulash, because the Mega Millions jackpot has ballooned to $1.6 billion, making it the largest in U.S. history. The prize comes with a cash option, which I will gladly take, of $913 million, but don't get too excited, because your odds of winning 1 in 302 million, which is not exactly a strong chance unless you're Elizabeth Warren. Despite those long odds, tickets are selling at a record pace. Look at this clip. If nobody wins tonight, it will go up to $2 billion for the next drawing on Friday. It goes without saying that everyone here would give the vast majority of their winnings to charity, should they take home the prize. But if you did keep some of that for yourself, what would you spend it on?
Well, my mother is watching. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in the will. I'd have to pay off debt. You know, like a lot of Americans, I have a lot of debts, but I would give to charity. I would. I'm a liberal. I have to. You know, I can't sleep at night unless I do.
So a lot of places, you can't have gambling unless it's state sanctioned.
Yes.
And I am a degenerate gambler, so I'll play the lottery. I'll do a pickup game with some of the fellas in Washington Square Park, little blackjack.
Yeah, that's that. But that's the whole racket. Is they say gambling's illegal. Now here's the
And bad.
state gambling,
And yeah.
and it's the worst odds. You have better odds than almost any other form of gambling, and it's poor and working class people who pay into this. It gets wasted on government programs. You should gamble the old-fashioned way in the park, on a football game, in the stock market. You know, like
The
good
guy outside
American.
with the cardboard
Exactly.
box.
Yeah,
has
all
got
that
a little
stuff.
shell game.
Shell game.
You have a way better chance of
I
winning that
lost
game.
$3,000 in him last week. Oh, man, and that Kenyan prince never delivered on that $3 million he
Just needed the
promised.
down payment.
I sent him the
darndest
wire. I thought I was going to get it back. Do you think people who play the lottery are optimistic or foolish?
A little bit of both, which is fine. It's America. You're allowed to choose. I love that. But also, if you're going to ask me what I'd get, gold-plated house and a rocket car. No big deal. Then we get to charity, because you don't just have to be a liberal. You can just be a nice person who
right.
wants to give where you'd like to give, because we're all nice
So where
people
would you
here. All right. Community, my St. Ed's, my high school, the
Aw.
college, Kent State, make a grant where kids can go to
wing?
college for free.
A Dolph Ziggler wing?
But I would say it's anonymous, but everybody would walk by like, I donated that, right? Just, it'd be perfect.
See, I take buildings
So humble.
in the name anonymous and I say they're mine. So I did the opposite thing.
So you just stand on the other side
Yeah,
of
I'm
the,
like, yeah,
the corner?
let's see, this whole cancer research facility. Woot! A lot of times I like to donate as David Koch. It's my pseudonym. The weirdest thing. I just love the arts. You guys, thanks so much. Dolph, Dave, and Leslie, what a great night. Thank you all.